Productive Pastor 63, 3 brutal truths about your schedule. What's going on, friends? Chad here, back with another episode of Productive Pastor. You can find the show notes for this episode, revchadbrooks.com/pp/063. I think for a second about what episode number we're on. I'm batching these things, which I love, but also kind of makes it a little bit more confusing. And just in my head, I talk a lot. Productivity, either an artist or an engineer. I'm on the artist side of this, but it's going to help me create more space, more margin to make this and all sorts of other things better. But it's kind of a perfect segue into this conversation about, 3 brutal truths, but also the lessons behind each of them. Our schedule might be wanting to tell us things. So we're talking about that today. A couple things, still wrapping up. I'm on vacation this week, real time. Hoping to wrap up and finish up the stuff on the Trello course next week, get that out. I'm hearing back from a bunch of you. Tons of folks are excited about this course and what it's going to do, and it's going to be a great way for you to learn how to leverage a fantastic project management tool, Trello, in your personal productivity, but also give you the understanding of what does it mean to integrate it kind of across your entire ministry. Trello is something that I cannot live without. That's no surprise to some folks, but that course is coming out. It's going to be on there. So we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about your schedule and the secret things it wants to be whispering in your ears right now. So let's just get on with that main conversation for this episode. 3 brutal truths about your schedule and the lessons behind each of them. So let's just jump straight into it. There's this fascination inside of productivity to have the search for the perfect schedule. We'll see this conversation pop up in the Productive Pastor community on Facebook all the time, especially like the perfect week. Like people think, how are you organizing your week? And, we can just chase this so much if we want to. It's one of the things I feel like distracts us. This is the dirty secret of productivity, is this idea that we can find the perfect tool, that we can engineer the perfect day, that the perfect thing is out there to give us, the perfect ministry, all those sorts of stuff. And we just tool chase, and we actually become less productive because we're trying to integrate so much stuff. We're overcomplicating things. And what I've found in my own productivity for the last 6 months or so is the simpler, the better. I have begun eliminating tools and processes and things and realizing just a handful of things is all I need to stay at my best. But what's so funny is our schedule can tell us these things. So 3 brutal truths. Here we go. Number 1, your schedule does not align with your priorities. So if I ask you this right now, and I try to ask this every Monday morning in the Productive Pastor community, what is the most important thing that you are doing right now? There's this idea, and I don't know where it came from. Somehow it's that it is not holy, that it isn't okay to have priorities when you're in a ministry job. And we have to change this. Now, yes, there are folks that have gone a little priority crazy. There's also the temptation to be so focused on your priorities that you're never actually doing ministry. There's all sorts of things that people can say about priorities, and I'm going to give that to you. But what's difficult is so many times in ministry, we live in reactive mode. You've heard me talk about this. But this idea of when you do not know what your priorities are, the most important thing you do, you're actually going to struggle with being a steward because you're going to be keeping things just in the present, in the now, and just living in reactive mode. And I feel like that is something that is a really, really dangerous place, and people don't realize it until they're sitting around, they're experiencing burnout, because there is just this lack of passion and fulfillment that's existing, and we never planned on getting there. But when we just don't prioritize things, we begin just thinking it's supposed to be stagnant and stay the same. And so, your schedule doesn't align with your priorities. Now, you might say you have a priority, but you can pull out that day sheet. You can do a time audit, and you can say, wow, I might say this is a really important thing to me, or my deacon board or my church council or some other committee says, hey, we want to prioritize this. And you look at your schedule and you say, wow, I spent like 20 minutes on that this week. It's one of the things I love about Trello, and why I'm doing this Trello course is because it is possible for us to stay on top of things that are really important, but also be honest in our ministry and being with people and being responsive, all of those things. Episode 47 of the podcast, I talk about the Sunday review and 3 questions that have become more and more important to me in the last couple of months is this, but just sitting down once a week and answering these 3 questions. What is the most important thing for me focusing on? What is the most important thing for me to start? And what's the most important thing for me to finish? Just declaring those handful of priorities as you set out your week and as you plan out your weekly schedule can be super, super powerful. Because really that means you're asking in is, are you building in the time to work on these? Learning where we spend our time in ministry matters. That's why I believe so much just in the tool of the time audit and understanding this. Because if we're declaring something as a priority, but we're not actually dedicating any time to it, it's not really a priority. So that's the first brutal truth, is that your schedule doesn't align with your priorities. Now, the second brutal truth is this: your schedule doesn't align with your energies. Now, if there is a silver bullet to productivity in ministry, I think it is learning how to live with your energy, of knowing when you're at your best, of knowing what time of day you're at your best, of learning, what day of the week are you at your best. Like, what are you allowing yourself to be doing when you're doing it? And can you begin defending those times? And I'm not talking about whole days. Like, if you come in and you try to defend an entire 40-hour work week, people are going to look at you like you're crazy, and they're going to get mad, and they're going to get frustrated at you. But if you've learned, hey, there's a couple of hours in the morning when I am great, and I'm going to do my morning routine. We did an episode about that last episode back. I'm going to do the things I need to do to be set up for the best there is right now. And so from, 9:15, 9:30 on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, my door is going to be shut until 11. And unless it's an absolute emergency, I'm not going to answer. And if you have a secretary or administrative assistant, somebody like that, they can kind of maybe even help defend that door a little bit, that's there. But if you don't have anybody, you might want to find a different place for that hour or for that time. But, those focus times are absolutely, you need to learn to defend them, because that's when your energy is at your best. And you might find out, hey, there's a day that seems to be better than others, and I'm going to really focus on that day. I worked at a church at one point in time that had a senior pastor that did all of his sermon writing on Wednesdays, and he would not even come in on Wednesday. A lot of times when I was serving in full-time ministry, I would not do that much heavy sermon lifting work in the office because of distractions. And so think about what days of the week, what times are you at your best. Like for me now personally, I'm on a medicine I take once a week, and it kind of just messes with my schedule. And my Mondays are just kind of trash. I'm a little lethargic. It's difficult. And also coming off of Sunday morning, all those sorts of things, my Mondays, I just don't plan on having to do anything very important on Monday. I do some small ball administration. I do some reading. I do filing. I do bookkeeping. I do all of these sorts of things that I can do when I'm really not at my best on Monday. Okay, mornings for me are incredibly important. I've learned that, my morning is when I'm able to do a lot of things better than I can in the afternoon. And so I arrange my schedule to have mornings off for that. Now, I'm bivocational. I work inside of our conference office. I have a coaching practice, independent. I also coach with Passion and Partnership, and I pastor a church in an extremely small-time reality. That's what my life looks like. And so I make sure that I am scheduling my mornings for working on sermons, for designing things for people, that sort of stuff. I save my afternoon for the calls that I'm on, which is a pretty big part of my job. I also save certain work for the day I spend every couple of weeks at the church. It's 25 miles away, so you got to pack up the stuff and be ready for the day. I save stuff for that environment that I know works well in that environment. I can do really good deep work there, and so I save things for that. Late afternoon, if I've done creative stuff, I've done a lot of writing in the morning, that sort of a piece. I've had a few phone calls, some coaching sessions, that kind of stuff. I'm tired. I'm whooped up a little bit, but that last hour of the day, I've learned, hey, some low level stuff is there, or, there's some reading you might be able to get done in that moment. And so I've just learned to follow my own rhythms. If I have a night meeting, and I know that happens from time to time, if I'm driving to the church for church council or have a consultation with the church in the evening, that sort of a thing, I'm aware of my afternoon. I'm making sure, hey, let's make sure your afternoon is not draining. You've got 3 coaching calls from noon to 5, and you've got a meeting at 6 o'clock. I'm going to be like really, really drained when that meeting comes in. And so, think about your energies and where your energies are at their healthiest. In the Becoming Productive course, I talk about this a lot, of draining, dealing, and developing tasks. If this is something you're interested in, consider going over and getting the Becoming Productive course. It's $50. Like, that's in the course training world, that is nothing. And you can learn a lot about what does it mean to just leverage these times, but also the personal energies that you have. And so that's the second brutal truth your schedule can tell you, is your schedule doesn't align with your energies. And here's the last one, and I'm learning to believe in this more and more and more and more, is this. You are probably trying to do too much. That's the thing that your actual schedule. So if you're writing in your calendar and your tasks and your to-dos, and then the things you're interrupted and you end up having to do, friends, go do a time audit. Episode 2 of the podcast, go do a time audit. There's a free tool for it, or you can go super, super in-depth inside of Becoming Productive with a time audit. But all of these things will show you are probably trying to do too much. That's why you're tired. That's why you struggle with focus. And that's why you feel like you're never able to get further down the field. In episode 25, I talk about why you should schedule to 80%. And I believe in this wholeheartedly. When we're overscheduled and when we are never able to finish things, that is going to create a very bad mental state. Ministry is an interesting enough job in the fact that so many times we don't see things as being done. That's why you find so many folks in ministry have hobbies that allow them to actually finish things. It's because there is an emotional release when we are able to shut the door on something. And when we're overscheduled, and we also have a job that never finishes things, and when we have a schedule that keeps us from finishing things, it's going to be gnarly. Because here's the thing, if it's taking 110% to get it all done regularly, you've got a problem. There'll be seasons of life where we have to go at this level. It's just part of the job. But if that is your norm, friends, it's going to end badly. If you're feeling these emotions, you're saying, Chad, this sounds way too familiar. Do a time audit, get a handle on it, understand where the problems are coming for. I've had folks come in and book coaching calls to work through this process together. That's something else that I do. But you're probably trying to do too much. There's something about scheduling to 80%. Episode 25, it's going to really go more in depth on that, because there are seasons for hustle. But if it is never ending, you need to do some serious interior examination. It's some schedule realignment, because it's not supposed to be that way. And what you will find out is you're actually able to accomplish more scheduling at 80% than scheduling for 110%. So that's it. Those are the 3 brutal truths that your schedule probably wants to tell you. Number 1, your schedule doesn't align with your priorities. Number 2, your schedule doesn't align with your energies. And then 3rd, you're probably just trying to do too much. And if you heard inside of this a couple of recurring running themes, you heard true. I tell people I'm not the smartest person in all these sorts of things, but what I have in my life and my job is the privilege of having tons and tons and tons of conversations with pastors and just hearing what happens when the exact same things always rise to the top. And that's what we have in these situations. We're living reactive instead of proactive. We don't know what we're doing. Like, we don't have a grasp on what our tasks and our schedules actually look like. That's why I believe so much in the time audit. I mean, I said that word so many times in this episode. It's there. But then also just we don't have clarity on what matters. And when we don't have clarity on it, we can't defend it. So your schedule will tell you what you need to know, friends. So the episode is over. Thanks for coming, hanging out, sticking around. Next episode, it's going to be about campaign-based thinking as we kind of start winding summer down, going into the fall. We're going to have ministry emphases. I guess that's how you say that. So let's talk about campaign thinking. What does it mean to align your entire church towards something, not just a scattered, ill-defined priority? So we'll be back with that episode. As always, you can find the show notes at revchadbrooks.com. Come hang out in the Productive Pastor community with us on Facebook. And I'll be back in the next episode.